Understand? You included.
Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. It's your T-shirted historian. Welcome to another week in Geek. All right. Well, the reports have been coming in all week about Gary Con. And I got to tell you, man, I wish to hell I could have gone. I wish to hell I could have been there because y'all look like y'all are having such a great time. I don't even know if we're going to have that many people viewing today because a lot of you are probably out at Gary Con and enjoying it, unless it's over already. I don't know. But yeah, I've been seeing pictures of people getting games in with Errol Otis, and getting pictures with Larry Elmore, and just hanging out with all of the creme de la creme of the D&D, greats. Somebody reported in that they met Rose Estes, and I thought that was just awesome because I love Rose Estes. I mean, I grew up reading her books, the Endless Quest books. And, all I can say is I am very green with envy. But at the same time, I'm also very happy for all of you guys and gals who got to go and got to be part of the panels and, got to rub shoulders with some of the TTRPG royalty out there, because that's probably a once-in-a-lifetime thing. And, the truth is, we don't know how many more of those we have left in us. Next year, there may be a lot fewer guests because they may not be on this earthly plane anymore. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's getting younger. And, medical conditions happen, of course. Myself being a bit of a medical condition at the moment, but I'm healing up pretty well. Doctor says, there's no infection. So other than that, it's just waiting for the stitches to, I guess, dissolve and my wound to be totally sealed up. Doctor says it'd be about another 3 weeks, so that's a good thing. In the meantime, I'm still getting some pain here and there, but it's not as bad. I mean, like the first day out of the hospital, man, I was constantly looking at the clock to see when I could take my next hydrocodone pill. But we're not nearly that bad now. It's pretty good, actually. And yes, I did get a car, so good deal. Again, special shout out to Daniel over at Driving and Dragons, who gave me a lot of really good advice and looked at a lot of my picks and, kind of steered me in which direction to go for a vehicle. And I have to admit, I'm really happy with my choice. So, it's a good thing. Hopefully, I won't get rear-ended again this time. Or at least maybe they'll buy me a drink first, right? All right. Gilbert Isla, hey, how are you doing? First time I'm seeing you. Driving and Dragons, yes, it is good to see you, buddy. Snorty Bear, it's good to see you too. All right. kind of a short rant today, I guess, because it's not really much of a rant, other than to say that that I'm really glad for all the people who did get to go to Gary Con, and I wish I could have gone with you. Maybe next year. I don't know if there is another one next year. I hope there is. And other than that, I mean, I guess life is good. I could certainly be doing worse. All right. Well, shall we do this? What? What do you mean? What fresh hell is this? What, JP? What fresh hell is this? What? We're here, yeah. Ronan, hey, it's good to see you, bud. All right. Let's get our guests on, shall we? First off, Mr. Grimm, without who I couldn't do this. How you feeling, dude? You all right?
Yeah, just I've changed my meds over, so it's always a bit rough.
Uh-huh. Other than that?
Yeah, okay, we'll do.
Okay, well, the question everybody keeps asking me is, what's up with Ronan?
So I want to do the Machinations crowdfunder first to kind of bed things in and see if this new setup works. So the long and the short of it is that the new setup hasn't worked. There's been a couple of problems, which is why the crowdfunder hasn't gone live yet. So it still won't be after that, but obviously it's not going to be this month.
Mm-hmm.
But it gives me time to polish it up and make it better. I might do some playtesting.
Oh. Speaking of that, did you catch our Tuesday show?
I don't know. This last couple of weeks have been a bit of a blur.
Well, we talked about the new high fantasy or actually it's the natural fantasy atlas.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So
that looked interesting.
It is interesting. So how much arm twisting do we have to do to get you to run some Fabula Ultima?
Some. I've prepped a Vyson game for Sunday, but I guess I can look into running a short campaign of Fabula Ultima after that.
It might not be a short campaign if we really like it,
Yeah. I have other games to play,
I know.
Got, part of the Aram tier.
I got that too.
And I got a copy of Outgunned, which people say is comparing favorably with Feng Shui. So
I see. All right. Well, why don't we pull our guests on it? Oh, look at this! Was not expecting this. Dash, it's good to see you, bud.
Hey, how's it going? Ooh,
it's going good.
Yeah, I got to be on another show in an hour, but I thought I'd hop on because I saw the link. I know you've wanted me to have me on for a while, so I thought I'd drop in.
Yeah, I love it when you come on, man.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot.
Uh-huh.
How's it going, Grim?
Yeah, all right. Stop asking.
All right. Well, here's our special guest for today, Matt DeMicco of Cranky Clydesdale Publishing.
Hello. I feel like I'm kind of unique here. I've got actually my face up on camera instead of a cool meme or a picture.
Well, I mean, it's like I could do my cam, but it's like this is what you get.
There you go. How's everybody doing? I'm glad to be here.
We're good, I think. Go ahead, Dash. It's okay. Sorry.
Oh, no, I wasn't going to say anything.
Okay. I'm not sure why Grim doesn't have his camera up. Maybe he's feeling camera shy since his med change.
Feel a bit rough, but I don't want our guest feeling alone, so I will turn all my lights on. And
it's literally taboo for VTubers to show their face.
That's what makes it kinky.
Yeah, and I don't show mine anyway. That's why I wear sunglasses. So. But all right. So you have got a Kickstarter called The Cult of the Winged Skull.
I do.
And yeah. And I heard of you but because we did it. We had you on for your last Kickstarter that went well.
Yeah, I loved being on for Massacre Grounds. We talked about the intricacies of the capybara as a mount, and I think I delivered for you. I sent you that artwork, so I hope you got it. It is actually made it into the sequel to Massacre Grounds, the Demons Reawakening, so that you can give yourself that feather in that cap. Enjoy that. But yeah, today we're here talking about Withmail, the new setting, and then Cult of the Winged Skull. It's a great new book I have. The Kickstarter is running right now. I think if people take a look at it, a lot of the art is up. Right in the middle of the screen here is my Kenku random encounter. DCC and Shadow Dark. The book is available for each one of the game systems. People are like, why did you do both? Because I like both. I think they're fun to run. I actually do OSE also. I enjoy all the different game systems. Honestly, I'd probably play a cereal box if there was an adventure on it. But there's 2 separate books involved in the Kickstarter. You can go either way or don't. Get both books. We offer that option. What you'll see in there is over 100 pages. There's 4 linked adventures. There is a 21 god new Pantheon with new patron spells that for DCC, and then optional spells for Shadow Dark. So it really is 2 unique books. We've put a lot of value into it. Bert is in the audience. He's the editor, so I appreciate Bert giving me his support and being here. Joey Dosel did most of the art in the book. Actually, did all the art in the book this time. Great artist. That Kenku piece in the middle, I'll tell you a little bit that because I think it's super cool. I did 20 individual unique random encounters because I don't think random encounters should always be a fight. I just like when you can kind of add to the story or kind of get when your PCs get off track. You can kind of use a random encounter to kind of push them where they needed to go. But Kenku is just good fun, and I've loved that since I think I saw it in 1E or 2E. I can't remember when they actually Kenkus came out, but the Crow people are a love of mine. So you run into this group, but you don't know they're Kenku because they're in disguise. So the thought bubbles above their head is what they're going to do to you because they're Kenku. They're going to screw with you, and it depends on how your DM rolls. If he chooses to do it himself, or if he rolls, there's a random way to roll, and then he can randomize the adventure or decide he's going to have the Kenku send you off to rescue a fair maiden, which means you're going to run into that owlbear there, or the Kenku are going to disguise themselves as, maybe a god, and try to get you to pay homage, or try to hand you something that turns into dust. But it's kind of a fun little unique Kenku. For the history of the Crow people are kind of, not really wicked, but kind of mischievous.
Mischievous, yeah. So
I just always love them. And of course, you can pick old school way and just fight it out and murder hobo them if you want. But I think that's kind of the least fun way. But 20 adventures. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, take a breath, man. Take a breath. Let us talk too.
Yep.
But
sorry.
But no, it's all right. Okay. First thing I'm going to ask you, because I asked this for everybody who's going to make a book. Are you going to have an index?
Yes. Bert did that. Yes.
Okay. Then, you win. You automatically get my support if you're going to put an index in there. Yeah. Bookmarkers are even better, but I understand if you can't do that. I mean, it depends on which printing company you go through.
Right.
If you could put a bookmarker in. But yeah, I always insist. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, guys, put an index in there because if I'm GMing this thing and I'm trying to fumble around and find something, is like first place I check is in the back of the book for an index, so I can find a keyword and get back on track. Otherwise, I'm flipping through pages after pages after pages trying to find what I need to, and my players are sitting there grumbling at me and getting up to go to the bathroom and ordering pizza and getting chips and basically getting off track and wandering away from the table. And you don't want that to happen with a bunch of ADHD riddled gamers.
Yeah, that's why I don't DM.
Yeah, the bookmarks are your friend if you get a PDF copy. They definitely are. So yeah, I love the book when we can bookmark the PDF and get it to go where it wants. That's always. But the search engine or the search bar is your friend too. Just to, when I'm doing it, I run into the same thing. If you don't get it going, they run off.
Mm-hmm. The PDFs, by the way, are $15, which is not a bad price. But what got me, because you know me, I'm all about physical media. Got to have my physical book in hand. When I go to the bathroom to read something, I want it to be physically in my hand to read. But yeah, the PDFs and the physical code for Shadow Dark or for DCC, whichever your choice, is $30. So it's basically twice the price of the PDF, which is that's an astounding value. But what's even better than that, if you want a physical copy, both codes and both PDFs, it's $40. It's $10 more. So I can't see how you can beat value like that. That's a good deal.
Well, and the unique thing is I always try to add something fun to the Kickstarter. So that is a hardcover, which I will not be offering. So you'll have a Kickstarter exclusive. The hardcover will only be for the Kickstarter people. I think it's important to reward the people that stand by you and support you. So that's a cool. We talk about it in the intro. That's Kickstarter exclusive. You'll have a hardcover. Your friends, if they buy it later, will have the softcover, which will be nice and functional, but not as cool. I love hardcover books. Just
same. Absolutely the same. Yeah, we're hardback people here all the way. I think Grim is too. Even.
Yeah, prefer it if I can get it.
Hey, Joe. So yeah, it's like anything with the Shadow Dark name on it right now is like a super duper hot property, and there's a lot of people who are writing stuff for it, which is great. I'm curious what you think of the actual system since you've had to write for it now.
It harkens back to the kind of the BX era where you have the bare minimum. DCC is very unique in that you have these crazy wild rolls where you go up and down, and your low level magic user can roll a 20 plus and start taking over your campaign. Shadow Dark is just minimalistic. It reminds me of when I was a kid. I really do love the system. I think the layout is spectacular. It's grim though. I mean, you're getting like 1d6 of damage, 1d8 of damage. I mean, so it's small. I mean, it's a slog, which I kind of like. Some of my players, when we were testing it, didn't love it because they were just like they were used to playing like 3.5 or the new 5e or whatever, and they wanted to be able to do 50 points of damage or something like that. And I'm like, no, you're a D12 is a big damage dice in Shadow Dark. So I kind of like the grim aspects, and there's no min-maxing. So I really enjoy just kind of I don't want to say easy system because it's complex, but it's kind of simplistic. I guess simplistic is not always bad. Elegant, simply elegant. How's that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've not had a chance to play it yet, but I do have the rule book, and I kind of got into the whole Shadow Dark thing kind of late in the game because sadly I was one of those people who originally, was kind of the whole, this is, flash in the pan and all this kind of stuff. But what impressed me was the fact that Kelsey Dion is an actual nice person. She supports one of my friends who also does Kickstarter and does Shadow Dark products. And that kind of convinced me that, okay, she's on the level, she's all right. And, the more people I've talked to about her, the more I've come to like what I'm hearing. So, I did eventually end up getting my own copy of Shadow Dark, and I thought it was a neat little book. It's not as super simple and uncomplicated as Scarlet Heroes, but I mean, what is? That's the be all end all of easy gaming for me, and I've run it enough to where it's pretty much my go-to if I want to just take it easy and run something. But that's good too.
I think that's the appeal of the Shadow Dark system is it's fairly easy to teach a new player how to play, and it's not overly complicated, but it has some elegance to it. And so I really liked it. When I read it, I originally couldn't get a book. I didn't do the Kickstarter. I got a PDF version, so kind of taught myself all about it in the PDF version. And then I walked into my local game store, Athoria Games. Hello to you guys. And it was sitting on the shelf there, and I was like, oh my, and I went and bought it because I was like, oh, I finally found a copy of it. So I was really happy to have an actual physical copy. And I think, it's, game systems, when they're well written and the people behind them are decent people, I think you've got a winning combination.
Mm-hmm. Dash, have you had a chance to try it yet?
Shadow Dark?
Yeah.
I was just looking up. I have not played that. I've been playing old school Renaissance with Ironcaster on Thursdays.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think?
Of the system?
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at one of the Kickstarters. I did have it up. Oh, it looks good. I'm all big on like these third-party stuff. I just feel like there's just more creative freedom when like people like release like these crowdfunding things. There were like.
Are you trying to say that people who are not obstructed by corporate greed and sensitivity readers and are you saying that they create better products? Is that what Dash?
Yeah. Passionate. The passion's there. There's no like middle person to get in the way. I've seen like 5e supplement books that look like absolute bangers
mm-hmm.
on Kickstarter. I mean, like, if I had anyone to play them with, I'd totally get some of those books. But like, as it is, like, I'm in 2 games already. So,
yeah, and the artwork for this is actually really good, and that is one of the reasons why I'm always happy to get independent Kickstarter guys or independent publishers of any kind on my channel to talk about their work, because I constantly keep preaching the fact that everybody's upset at D&D, nobody likes Wizards of the Coast, nobody likes their product, nobody likes them. So but you have options. You have so many options. There's so many good things out there you could be enjoying. You don't have to sit there and just stew in anger about being limited for choice. I mean, it's not like, being stuck in a gulag and it's like, would you like borscht or would you like, cold borscht? You have a choice. You can just walk out and go, say, I'm going to just go over here across the street and get a hamburger. Thank you very much. Eat my ass. But,
yeah. The only reason I'm playing the new 5.5 right now is because just to really hook up with my old high school teacher who's a big nerd.
Yeah. And I understand. I mean, I'm not saying 5e is a bad system.
Well, I like the original 5e.
Yeah.
I'm really like there's things about the new 5th edition that are really cool, but my big thing is the whole sanitization thing. That's like some of the buffs to sorcerer are great, but like there's all that other like stuff like needless changes when like the base vanilla 5e worked fine.
Yeah, I really didn't see the need to have like more pages filled with more artwork and more convoluted rules, I suppose. I mean, and then the 2024 edition isn't selling well from what I understand anyway. So
maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, maybe this is the shot in the butt they need.
Do you have like a unique selling point for this project, or are you just trying to do a campaign in a setting like hyper competently? Is that what you're aiming for?
Basically, this has been my ongoing setting for the last 2 years for my home game. So this is a really built out setting. I've got a lot of factions built in. The 4 adventures kind of introduce you to them, but I don't go like each supplement I'll do will kind of introduce you to a faction. So this one, we kind of talk a little bit about the Withmill Rangers, which is the Rangers Corps. And then we talk a lot about the Knights. the Knights of Rainreach, which are that. So, and then we've got the wizards, 3 different wizard orders, the wizards of, or the mages of light, the mages of shadows, and the mages of darkness. So the thing about it is, like, for each piece, I wanted to have enough depth where I'd give you a taste, and then, but not overload you with information. Like, you wouldn't spend like days having to study up on the whole thing. So it kind of walks you through it. So I don't know if that answered your question. You know, obviously when I get going on it. So I'm trying not to run you over with your answer, but there's a lot of depth, and it was made so different GMs and judges can bring their own take into it. And then, of course, I want you to buy books, so I want you to hear what I have to say, you know, in future editions. So, like I said, I love pirates. The book has a big section. The river that runs the Holm River is full of pirates, and the knights patrol it, and then you just have merchants. And then I love, you know, the interactions that way. So I add a little bit of everything, but I don't overload you. But the whole thing was to give a setting where you can take it and play your home game with it. And then hopefully you'll be asking for more. Hopefully you'll be giving like, hey, Matt, what about this? What do you think about this? And when people do that, I tend to reach back out and say, what do you think about it? And then I enjoy that. I enjoy that interaction.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all gamers. I mean, we love talking gaming. So it's funny when people are like, you know, I realize I was a cop for 20 years and I may not look super friendly, but yeah, I've been playing for a long time. So I love to talk gaming. So if someone were to take my stuff and be like, you know, I don't go too much in depth about the dwarves and the Dwarven Nation in this, but they're there. The dwarves are NPCs and they're around, but I don't smother you with like, here's a bucket of information. I mentioned the elves, I mentioned the dwarves, but they're not, you know, they're not a big part of the adventure. I decided to go with gnomes. I kind of thought gnomes were kind of an untapped resource for DCC and Shadow Dark. I know there's some third-party supplements, but I really wanted to do gnomes. So that's if you know John Watson, I don't know if you've had him on the show. He's an excellent guy overall. He writes some good stuff, Rugby Melee Games. I played his Dungeon Dwelling Creatures, and I said, what a great way to introduce some of the monster races that I could introduce into Withmail. But now you get to play them and attack the gnome island, Wemble. So I had a lot of fun with that. I sent the story in there, some art on that. You know, so it's just, we've had a good time figuring out stuff. Some stuff worked, some stuff didn't. And then we've just modified it. So I think there's a lot of depth in this whole book. We are over 100 pages already, probably quite a bit more when we're done with the full edit.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that this is not going to be like a setting in limbo. I mean, you were telling me earlier that you've already got stuff that's completed for the next parts and everything else. So. Yeah,
like I want you to buy the setting. I want you to buy the 4 adventures there because they're fun to play. You don't have to play them all. You might want to. But then, I've got a lot of plans for this built out. It's going to be continuing for me. You had the gnome on a beetle. So the gnomes have an airship, and they launch their fighters, you know, kind of Battlestar Galactica style, but their fighters are beetles. I just love that. Joey Dosel, him and I just have a lot of fun talking. So when we did a gnome airship, I was like, what would they launch? Because it would have to be like a Zeppelin balloon type thing. And what would they launch? And he's like, beetles. They would launch beetles. And I was like, they would. So he sent me that art, and I just love it. I just think that's perfect. So, you know, the piece after that is the White Spear Goblin Clan, which have a pirate ship also. So when they're on land, they use obviously wolves as their mounts and sometimes bats. But their pirate ship is full of frog-mannered goblins that they launch on catapults. And then they use the catapults for ship-to-ship combat. It's, you know, this is me having fun playing with my guys. I think I've told this before in my prior interview. I'm a grown man running with scissors, and hoping nothing bad happens, but I'm going to have a lot of fun with it. I think it's a lot of fun, but they're all statted out. They're all good quality adventures.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a cool idea myself. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't, be putting this up on the show. But I can already, see all kinds of crazy stuff you could do with this too. Because I figure, okay, if the gnomes came up with all this stuff, then obviously there has to be counter forces out there. So I don't know. Maybe there's, since gnomes live underground and their biggest enemy is probably the drow, then that's probably what the drow do, is like ride giant spiders into battle, and they shoot their webs and try to take down the beetles and eat them and stuff. I don't know.
And I chose this because I wanted a sized creature who would be an equal adversary to the gnomes. So I picked the goblins because they're kind of the same size. And so the goblins are really pissed off at the gnomes because all their tech and all their illusions and all their traps and stuff kind of get used against them. So they get pissed off. And that's kind of the beginning of the Dungeon Dwelling Creatures adventure, which is the add-on adventure. Mm-hmm. I think that is, John Watson obviously came up with that system. But that was really the inspiration of, okay, this is going to be a lot of fun. DCC and Shadow Dark don't really have gnomes, but you can have NPC gnomes. And then hopefully I give you enough as a GM or a judge that you decide, oh, you know what? My players can play gnomes. And there's plenty of third-party gnome classes. But
okay. I was going to say, I have to ask, okay, so this is your hex map. So How big are your hexes?
My hexes are 10 miles.
Ooh. That's a big area.
Yeah, this was made to, like I said, this was not made to be a flash and pan one adventure and you're done. This is made, the 4 adventures themselves would take most players several sessions to play. I would say 2 sessions each adventure, and there's 4 in there. But this map was made to play out. It's not complete. You see the dwarf in the right hand corner. We didn't even mention it much in the book, but the Dwarven Kingdom up top. You have the Empire, the kind of the evil Empire of Wolvenshield down at the bottom. You've got the the Elven Kingdom. You've got a lot where most of this adventure takes place is the march to Summerstep and Twigfront. But you start over here at Port Mirror to the right. The Port Mirror, which is if we got to the stretch goal, would be where the first funnel or gauntlet starts. And then you'll kind of march your way across the continent to Twigfront. So this map is big, and it's got I think most of it has been I'm going to add a little bit as we go, just kind of like, I'm not going to give it all to you, but that's a pretty good start for a GM or a judge that wants to dig in. I love so in the middle of the map you see this forest over here. Mm-hmm. So can you read what the forest is? It's to the right there.
Let me see if I can blow it up a little bit more. Strong Eye Forest.
Strong Eye Forest. So I kind of give a hint that there might be Cyclops men coming.
Yeah, no kidding.
So Greg Gillespie did it in his book, Dragon Slayer. I love Greg's work. I love Cyclops men. They've not really been much of a playable class, but as your GM or judge, you can make whatever you want. So I don't know that I'll do that in the next book, but I've got I like history, and I love being a student of history. So you'll see a lot of Hungarian, you'll see a lot of different influences. And then, of course, good old school Conan, ogres,
heavy metal, because there's Grim Frost and Vermithrax.
Yep, got to have a little metal.
There you go.
The guys that are the rockers will get in there, but one of the big things is the hobgoblin, race. Do we call them race now? Is that okay? Is that a dirty word?
Not to us, but
the hobgoblin. I loved the 1E, 2E versions of the hobgoblins where they were kind of militaristic and kind of had a samurai flair to them. With the samurai type armor. So they are present. They have, you'll run into a patrol ship or one of their pirate ships. if you roll that random encounter. I think it introduces their race. I love that take on them. And I can't remember, I think it was 2E, but I can't remember what they're taking in what was it called? The Oriental Adventures. Kind of really had that influence to them. But yeah, so I kind of built out their culture. One of the future adventures, and it's not even mentioned in this, but I think I've talked about it before, is that I want to do a gladiator arena. I think, we all want to say slavery didn't exist or whatever. It did. It's part of history. Yeah. So I want to do kind of this cool, gladiator arena where the, party members earn their way out or, earn their wooden sword, their gladius. I think that would be a super cool adventure. It's not written. It's kind of some of the ideas I have. I went into a lot of depth about the Wizard's Towers because I thought not to bag on the exact opposite, but Chasey Hickman and Margaret Weiss, I think I've talked about it before, have been a huge influence in my life. I've read almost everything they've written, but I didn't particularly care for their take on wizards. This might come out weird, but I just thought, why would you have a red robed wizard that just kind of walked around, and then you have a good and an evil? The red would be, they talked about renegades in there, and I was just like, your reds would be your ultimate renegade. They just pursue magic. They don't really want to live by rules. They'd be the ultimate neutral. They'd kind of live in the shadows, and they'd be renegades, but it would be its own order. So I changed things up a little bit. Obviously good is lawful, or good is what it is. The mages of shadows are their own sect. I didn't give them a color. I mean, I suggest some colors, but they don't walk around saying, "Oh, by the way, I'm this neutral, wizard." And then I did the same thing with the mages of darkness. If you're an evil wizard, my guess would be you wouldn't tell everybody, "Hey, I'm an evil wizard."
Well, nobody ever, nobody thinks of themselves as evil.
Yeah. So, and a fun fact, if you choose to use it as a GM or a judge, the main bad guy in this is Stanek. He's an evil wizard. It's kind of behind the cult of the Weird Skull. You can actually use him as a random encounter, and I have it mapped out in the encounter on how to do it. You can choose to do it as he's just checking up on the party and kind of poses as this kind of merchant. Or, I guess you could bring his Thunder Beast in there and go right at your party with him and TPK him. I wouldn't suggest that, but you can do that. So I put a lot of stuff in there where you really can have a lot of fun with it. It depends on, I guess, how you run it. But the wizard stuff was a big thing. You'll notice the 3 wizard towers on the map. I built that out. I really thought that was important to kind of set the groundwork. And then obviously once I did that, then I had to go with the new Pantheon. And I love spells. I think, nobody who doesn't like magic weapons and spells. So right. I thought I love faction play, and I love that maybe gods had an influence. So I added a little bit of that in there too.
Cool.
Wear name tags and hand out brochures. Hello, we are evil. Would you like to join us? Hello, we are evil. Would you like to join us? Need me evil done? No. Well, think of me when you do.
I've got to be honest. Since reading with Mail, I've been putting a fantasy with Mail and I sort of homage together in my head. We've got an adventure by mistake.
And the thing is we can joke around about that, but that's as an author, that's your biggest thing. Is I want it stuck in your head, and I want you to come by and say, okay, this is where I'm going with this. I'll play Matt's adventure, but I got something going on in here. It's going to come out my next game session. That's the biggest compliment you can play. Any indie writer, that's the biggest compliment we're going to get. We're certainly not going to be lining our pockets with gold. But
especially with the drive-through print costs going up. Oof.
Yeah. Mid Kickstarter for me, the print cost goes up, and there's nothing I can do about that, folks. It's just awful.
It is what it is. I mean, another thing I was going to ask you about. Okay, since we've established that you have 10-mile hexes,
Okay.
And this is something I'm always on about. Pretty much, I know I've said this many times on the show over the years, but people don't realize how much crap is in a 10-mile hex. You know, because I mean, it's like I was asking Grim, like how big of a 10-mile hex, how much stuff in his own country is in a 10-mile area, and he was listing off like a couple of towns and villages and all this other stuff.
About a dozen villages or more. A couple of lakes, a couple of bits of woodland, a castle, 3 Iron Age hill forts, some Neolithic stone circles.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
So the deal is it's always kind of like the idea that adventurers would cross hundreds of miles to get from place to place is such a weird concept to me, because I'm kind of like, there's so much to do in the small 10 miles that you were probably born in that you could probably spend an entire lifetime and never leave that 10-mile hex and still get a life full of adventure depending on where you're at. So to that end, I'm kind of curious how robust your random encounter tables or random wandering monster, whatever setup tables you've got, are going to be for the hexes, because that's going to be the best part. I mean, if they have to travel all the way from one end of the map to the other, getting there is going to be like a campaign unto itself before you even reach your goal.
So what I'm hearing you say is that someone that wrote this thing actually planned that maybe you wouldn't want to go into the heart of an adventure as first level. You might want to kind of earn your way as you go. So having some random encounters that don't maybe just slaughter you right out might be a good idea.
Oh yeah,
you might kind of learn as you go, kind of earn your stripes as you go. Which was my thinking about it. The random encounters, I have roles for them all. You can use them as random, which I think is fun. And then I separated the table. So if you want to help your guys along and there's 20 random ones where your idea, your first idea really shouldn't be combat, but it might be. But especially as a GM, if your guys are off track, or gals, you might want to help them along a little bit. So you might have them have a encounter with like a random group of adventurers. I always thought it was weird that in most random encounters, you don't run into another party of adventurers. Nobody spends that time. Well, I did, because I'm like, you should run into another party of 6 that's coming the opposite way or whatever. So I have adventures like that. And some of them are like, hey, you come along this dog, and the dog's sitting on the side of the road, and I'm a big dog lover. I have 3 dogs, and I'm like, so some of the random encounters are fairly basic, but like in Shadowdark and in DCC, there's no war dogs. They're not really there. So I added one in. You can have an encounter if your judge decides that you can have it, and he rolls it up. You can have that. So some of it is to get more stuff as you go, because you don't in DCC and Shadowdark. You're not picking up. You're not stopping at the local magic shop and buying your. And this is my problem with 5e. You're not picking up your 5e. You got enough gold. Guess what? We're going to the magic shop and we're buying a +5 sword. And now I'm, a fighter, but I have a 1 level of magic user, 1 level of cleric, 6 levels of druid, and I shape change. Not judging anybody. If that's the way you love to play and you're playing and you're having a good time with your friends, have that. That's not my choice. I don't really like it. So I give you a chance to kind of earn your stripes and get some cool stuff as you go and level up. And I thought that was an integral part of not getting just completely slaughtered. If your judge, though, wants to just kick the tar out of you, I guess they could, because that would be the other half of that table would be, they're pretty stout. He could roll you up. You're going to get attacked by, 1 die, whatever, owlbears, and they're coming at you. I wouldn't suggest you do that as, a fellow player that probably wouldn't like to get killed like that. But, I have that in there. So it's going to be how you want to play. Bert does a good job of keeping me in check and telling me this works or this doesn't work. And I go, Bert, this is what I want to do. So tell me how I'm gonna, tell people that. And I think that's why he's a wonderful editor. Just like Joey was the wonderful artist that I work with, because I'm like, this is what I want to see, and then he comes back and shows me what I just saw. So I'm like, it's really cool. But I think, that's part of the fun of it, is like you're venturing across. You're launching so this is Lord of the Rings, right? Did he walk from, the Hobbit? Did he walk all the way to, Mordor? No. Yeah. I mean, kind of. I mean, so he had adventures along the way, and, you're going to stop in towns. You're going to, have these hijinks or whatever you decide.
It's about the truth. What, you mean I have to find rare and wonderful magical things? I just can't just equip a level 0 character with a +5. Yeah, no kidding.
Well, and that's a problem right now with a lot of stuff, is like new players think that's what they should do.
Well, I mean, they watch all the shows and stuff, and they see all the characters with all the cool stuff, and they're like, I want to be that person. I'm kind of like, you realize that in game terms, that character's probably like, maybe at 10th or 15th level or something like that, and that's why he's able to do that. But I think Grimm is of the same school that I am, which is basically, it's kind of like, if the random encounter table says Hell King, then a Hell King is going to show up and talk to your party. I mean, no, the Hell King may not, just decide, we're just going to exterminate you off the face of the planet. I mean, he's probably, going to say like, oh, these are just babies. We need to toy with them and,
People
corrupt them a little bit.
Running away is an option.
That
Running
is
away
also
is always a good option.
Yeah, that's always the other thing too. It's like, yeah, if the Tarask shows up and you're level 1, it's kind of like, are you really going to fight this?
Or if a 6th level magic user or wizard shows up that may be evil, on a Thunder Beast, you might decide not to hang out. Just saying. But he's probably going to be disguised as something else and just kind of testing the waters to see what you're all about. And that's why the counter's designed. But I also know that some people are going to go right at their players with it. So
of course, the 5th edition guys are probably going to be like, I want to roll to seduce.
Yeah. Well, and you got the game system for Bert and I had this conversation the other day. It's like, so Shadow Dark, there's no fear, there's morale. So each game system is unique. Obviously, 5e got a lot into that seduction weirdness, and that isn't part of my game. If that's what you're looking for, it's just not me. Maybe you can add that in for yourself, but my games are PG.
I mean, you could always add, your own little spiciness to all the encounters if you really wanted to. But I mean, it's just a case of knowing your players, reading the room. I mean, obviously,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I can't. The thing about that is my players would go with it, and then I would have to describe it, and I would lose it. I would not be able to.
Sure, I'm expected on another podcast in 10 minutes, so I'm going to dip out right now. But thank you for having me on.
Hey, anytime, Dash. You're part of the show. Anytime you want to come on, anytime the link is dropped, you are open invite anytime.
Cool. Okay, Matt, nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you, Dash.
And I hope you all consider backing Matt's Kickstarter, because he could use the support. I'm going to post it up again here. So yeah, it's Kickstarter.com projects. See Clydesdale Massacre. That was his other Kickstarter. It's The Cult of the Winged Skull up on Kickstarter. The price is actually really, really good. I mean, honestly, for the amount of stuff that you're getting and an index, it's worth it. It is. And can I stress, he's got an index, guys. This is an automatic win.
And I think I don't know if you mentioned it or not, but so if you buy the book, the physical book, you'll get the print code for it, but you also get both PDFs. So I wanted to reward you for being a print customer, because I think that's kind of becoming a dying breed. So if you buy the actual print book, you get DC and Shadow Dark PDF. So
yeah.
we give a lot of value in there, and I wanted you to be able to enjoy it. So I think that's another value in there. And then we also have, if you want to play with me or you want to play with John Watson, if you go for the top tier, we offer a ton of value in that. You get basically everything. plus a game with either John or I. I'm not sure where the games for me will be online. I'm not sure where John's going to do his games. But I think that's a ton of value. We opened that up yesterday. I felt like I wanted to do it. And then I talked to John. I said, and he's just been so gracious and so nice. For you, those you don't know, for Massacre Grounds, John lent me his Skinwalker class. So that is Brushfire. The lady that runs the saloon is a Skinwalker. Yeah. So she's if you want to get racy, she's a beautiful red-haired woman. And then she changes into the kind of this wolf creature but yeah, if you want to run your PG-13 campaign, that'd probably be one you want to do it with. The art is spectacular and
$50, little man. Let me put this RPG in your hand. That's right. And Daniel says, you only need indexes because you're inexperienced and a loser nerd. Real TTRPG designers have no table of contents or page numbers. It's a bunch of crap.
I'm going to start making indices DLC for an extra charge. That's
there you go.
Smart move.
There you go. And I thought this was kind of funny too, because Daniel was saying, real talk, I had a brand new player super excited to play who showed up with their level 1 character having a magic item in every slot and a staff. Yeah. I was 10 years old once. I did that. So,
yeah,
you you get the
Morley might.
I mean, you get the book, you see all the cool stuff, and you just think, oh, that'd be cool. I want to see what all this stuff does. And so, yeah, you just write all that stuff down on the character sheet because that's all it costs you. And then, yeah, you get to the actual game and your DM is just sitting there laughing behind their screen going, let's see how fast I can rob this kid of all of their stuff. Yeah, these newbies want to reserve. Yeah, I mean, it's like, I hate to say it's like new players kind of think it's like the cheat codes on Baldur's Gate and stuff to, start your character off at like level 50 with, the best gear in the game or something.
Yeah, but now you can start him off, he's naked with a penis or whatever else. You can do that, all crazy stuff. Now I was like, I bought that game. I was like, oh, this is cool, right? So I download it, and my kid is, my youngest is 15 now, so he's probably 13 then. And I load that thing up, and wait, like, yeah, that's I was not part of any book I ever built out. Like, I didn't know you could mix and match that.
What? Wait, what?
It was in Fatal.
Yeah. Have you played Baldur's Gate? Have you played the game?
Oh yeah. I do have it, and I have played it. I've forgotten about that.
It's when you create a character, you truly create a being.
Well, the first time I ever saw anything like that was when I got Conan Exiles, and it's like you put your first character on the screen, it's like, oh, hey.
Yeah.
And then you can, make the length of it and everything, and I'm just kind of like, seriously? Just,
yeah. Hey, there's something to enjoy for everybody, I guess. But yeah, that shocked me. My wife's what are you playing?
I mean, because your character basically starts out with nothing on, so I'm thinking like, well, if it's that big, shouldn't they have added an extra sound effect so when you're running it goes? But
wow,
these are the things I think about sometimes when I'm doing these things. I'm like, no, but
yeah,
I don't know.
You got off in the weeds on that one.
Yeah, we did.
Steer back.
Anyway, well, I mean, Clydesdale Massacre was a good one, and I expect this one to be even better because, like I said, it's obviously it's pretty well thought out, and you've worked on a lot of stuff. I mean, look at all the Oh yeah, don't be hating on Age of. I'm not hating on it. I own it. But you got some cool new classes. I mean, you got the Dybbuk, which is an evil spirit capable of possessing corpses.
Yeah.
You've got the Fiend, which is a demon that gains power from those that worship them.
Now, and I'm going to say I don't have those classes. Those classes belong to John Watson when you play the gnome class. So I can't take credit for those. Those are John Watson's and his idea and his group that created that. But that's why I was so attracted to it. So that is Rugby Melee Games. For this one, I did not do a class. I did the new class in Massacre Grounds, but on this one, that's John's baby right there, and I think it's super cool. Like I think
Yeah.
playing a hag or playing somebody that can take over somebody, and then the Gnome Island one, I told you the gnomes have an airship, so the goblins capture an open airship, but the captain is killed. They killed him taking over, but no problem for Divic, right? He just becomes a little gnome, and now you're flying it into the Death Star, Star Wars style. Of course, the Death Star looks a lot like a big gnome fortress on top of a mountain in Wemble. But
yeah, and then you've got the Wendigo there, so like if you left any corpses behind, it's like the Wendigo takes care of all those for you because they eat the flesh.
You like a good race that's eco-friendly.
There you go.
Anyway, it's good, but yeah, I think John did a spectacular job with that. And people were like, "Why are you doing that? It's an unknown." But I'm like, I think it's cool. I think it's a lot of fun. I played in some of his test games, and I mean, it's good. So.
Well, for a long time now, and Grim knows this too. I've always been saying that gnomes kind of don't have a niche anymore in any of the RPGs. I'm kind of like I keep being surprised that people keep putting gnomes back in, but there's just a group of people that consistently like gnomes. And the deal is, it's like if you look at them from like advanced D&D, they were just kind of like smaller dwarves, which didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And they didn't really advance far beyond that. It wasn't until Dragonlance came out and turned them into Tinker Gnomes that they started to get interesting and kind of have a little personality of their own. But that was kind of setting exclusive until World of Warcraft came out.
Yeah, and I really like gnomes, but I wanted them to be a little bit more than these crazy tinkerers. So in the book, you'll wander into a druid circle, and one of the druids that greets you is a gnome. So I thought their draw from the Fey realm was, kind of a gimme for them to be a druid. But I also wanted that, I wanted them to be, kind of a little bit of, have a little dwarven background, but I also wanted them to have the inventor. But one of my favorite things from the early editions was a gnome illusionist. I think where they really excel. So I brought that in there too. So when you go to Memble and you have these, because basically you're the A team that gets formed up, and you pick your way how you're going to get to the island. And then you have, your top targets that they need you to weaken. And one of them is the Gnome Tower of Illusion, where people go from all over Whitmail to study illusion. And on top of some of the art that Joey did, that's only sketching right now. There's this cool looking dragon on, like, kind of wound itself on the top of the Tower of Illusion. And is it an illusion, or is it a real dragon up there? And I think you'll find out when you fly in there. And then I wanted to kind of give gnomes kind of a wicked side, but still keep them as gnomes. So it's kind of my own take. It's a little bit of everything. And I don't want to, drown everybody in my gnome vision, but I think it's a little bit of everything. So it just, I wanted to develop it's a setting. So you're going to really, it's just like, different people like different things,
sure.
But yeah, I wanted to bring that, so I'm going to say it out loud. Kender and gnomes in Dragonlance are kind of one-dimensional.
Yeah, they are. They are.
And I am a huge fan of Tracy and Margaret. I think they're spectacular. I buy all their stuff. But yeah, I would have liked to seen, what do they call it? A touch Kender. Like in the books, I think they touched that you could be evil, and then they would be a touch Kender or something like that. But we never really saw that. And then the gnomes were just kind of these zany things and these crazy contraptions, which I always thought was fun, because I think the inventor part of me and the guy that likes to tinker would always has a kindred spirit there. But I think you would have other gnomes that are just like, hey, I'm a bad Mamma Jamba illusionist, or hey, maybe I'm a gnome warrior. And, just like you have a halfling warrior. So my halflings in this are the Town of Twigfront is the lumber capital of Withmail. So they control the lumber industry. So I have halfling lumberjacks.
Well, what got me though, I think is, and I think this, I could kind of speak to a lot of other GMs who probably had this same problem. the deal with the Kender isn't so much that they were not necessarily well represented in the books or anything like that. It's just the way they were written as far as the race goes. They were embraced by people who just decided to be as utterly obnoxious and ridiculous with them as possible when they played them in games. And of course, all the other players got sick of that shit real quick, and the GMs got tired of the arguing and the fighting because they were in the games. And so that's why I think Kenders developed such a bad reputation.
And believe it or not, we did test the Kender. I did try to test it, and I decided against it because it does tend to just take over everything. Because it does attract a certain type of player that just wants to create chaos. I think so. He actually played it as like a Kender cleric. I think he did a really good job with it, but at the end of the day, I was just like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm going to stick with the races that are kind of identified. I think there's a lot of value there and a lot of history there without bringing Kender. And Kender just kind of stigmatized at this thing. Plus, really that's Dragonlance, and that's Margaret and Tracy's, child.
Yeah.
Whether they own it or not, it's still theirs. So I would never be disrespectful to them. Anything. I think they're both wonderful. But we did test one, and it didn't work. I didn't like it. And
I think the biggest problem with the Kender, as far as that goes, was to say that every single member of their race is like this, versus what should have been said was like, okay, Tasselhoff is this way, but not all other Kenders are this way. Because I can't see how an entire race of creatures could exist in this way and not have been exterminated or not allowed into towns and cities and villages or within anywhere near any kind of a law-abiding citizenry. It's like the same kind of ridiculous shit that happened in Pathfinder 2, where all of a sudden, because the goblins were like the cute little mascot for Paizo, just because they became a playable character race from the very beginning in Pathfinder 2, and they made up some story about how their homeland was destroyed, and so now that all the people have suddenly started embracing the goblins and then bringing them into their kingdoms, I'm kind of like, are you serious with me? Because in the first Pathfinder, the very first adventure you ever the very first thing you run into is a goblin attack on a village where they're killing people and horses and everything else and singing about it joyously. So I'm just kind of like, what kind of stupid shit is this? I don't. My verisimilitude is just totally destroyed by stuff like that, because I'm kind of like, if a real race of creatures existed like this, everybody would be banding together to wipe them out because they're so dangerous to everyone.
Yeah, and I think that's one. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Kender are just annoying, though. But I felt they could have broadened it out. Like, be small, do crimes. Maybe they're all cursed to be different kinds of criminal instead of all being the same sort of thing.
Yeah, the goblin race definitely goes back to more of the traditional goblins. Like, literally, they were telling you, we want you to go wipe out these gnomes. They're not being nice. They're not saying, oh, we want to be friends. You mean go ahead.
You mean they're not like allegories for actual people?
Yeah, no, there's like they kidnap they kidnap actually both of the sisters, the Chiss sisters, Kate and Cora. One of the original adventure that you're sent on is escorting Kate home. During that, you find out the goblins are actually holding the sister, so you end up on top of this mountain, going after kind of a goblin village, and then ultimately a goblin cave. And it's dark, and it's dirty, and it's got trash, and it's a goblin cave.
Nice.
It's dark, and you make your way in there. There's an effigy up front. It's your first sign of the winged skull. You see the effigy up front. You're like, what is that? And then you find out later on in the adventure that is a representation of two different gods. You won't know that when you start, but as you go on more and more. But yeah, goblins are very much goblins because I want them to be. But I also like, if a GM or Joe's wants to play it, that they have a softer side. I mean, that's up to you. I give them a lot of humanity because I think, they have personality.
Oh yeah.
At the end of the day, they're evil. I mean, just like when you get to fight the pig-faced orcs, because I love pig-faced orcs. They're not wearing sombreros. In case you were wondering that. That's just not my D&D. If that's your D&D, hey, enjoy that. That's just not mine. When you go into the cave underneath the keep, which is kind of the final adventure. When you get into that cave, there are nasty orcs under there, and they come at you. And they're not. They're trying to be your buddy. They're not gonna go. They're not gonna cook you a meal or, have a harp or whatever else they're playing on. They're not gonna educate you in falconry. They're just kind of your old school, D&D orcs. Can we say D&D now? Or they're old school orcs or OSR orcs, because I like that setting. I like kobolds and ogres and minotaurs and evil creatures. The last page of the book is an homage to a friend that passed away. This Joey Dosel's long friend, and he said, "Hey, can I add this cool picture of this minotaur? It'll be your final page as a homage to his friend." And I said, "Sure," because a minotaur coming ashore would be a great way to end a book. You wouldn't want to fight one as a low-level character because you're going to get slaughtered. But but it hints like, hey, there are other lands around this, and there are ships, so things are going to come ashore. Just like I've mentioned with the Cyclops men, I can't give it all to you like right up front. It's just impossible, other than just drowning you in lore, which would just, I'm sure somebody would like that, but you probably wouldn't.
Definitely not during a game.
Yeah, but it's like I always thought, like Conan the Barbarian. Why are barbarians only human?
Oh, you mean like from the original D&D, or?
Yeah, the original D&D, barbarians are only human. Like, wouldn't you have like an ogre barbarian band or a kobold or some other, like they just have, I'm not necessarily they call themselves barbarians because they would just call themselves kobolds, but they would act like
barbarians,
barbarian horde. So on the map, you have the kobold barbarian. I think it's oh gosh, I'm sorry, I've been talking so much. The Red Sun, it's the kobold tribe. It's right in the middle of the map to the right. But yeah, so I developed some of that stuff because I was like, yeah, you would have these like little festering little areas of just where the monsters have kind of set up a stronghold, and you're not clearing them out. They just kind of live there. Gura is the goblin one. The ogre one is down in the left west.
Odric?
Yep, down there. And so that's same, but the hobgoblins, I have them be a more advanced civilization because I always like that. I think they are kind of cool, and that's my take. So maybe I'm advancing them too much for monsters, but I thought
no,
I wanted
not necessarily.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's like it's my take on it, but I thought that was super cool. And so there was some stuff in there that I just love to geek out on this stuff. There's really not, and then there's different towns. I fleshed out some of them, and some of them you won't get until further editions. I know where I think that the Gladiator Arena will be eventually, but, as we go forward, that might change. And I did not want to make it to Lord of the Rings, so I left. There's a lot of mention of elves, and there's some elf NPCs, but I didn't do a whole elven realm just because that kind of people are going to want to know all about that. Same with the dwarf one. I love dwarfs. Like Joey wants to draw every dwarf there is, so there won't be a problem with that if we go there. But we touched on that a little bit, everything. But I think the traditional wise is where the OSR is where I kind of live. And I think that's why you like Shadow Dark or DCC, because it has some flavors. DCC gives you that roll up where you have that flash, and Shadow Dark is more your grim adventure, and you're keeping track, and you're you've got an hour and you've got, there's so much grit there. I think if your players like that basic style, which I do, it's cool.
Yeah, definitely. But I have to ask, man, where are my tieflings?
Tieflings.
Tieflings. Must have tieflings.
I did not do demonic. Shadow Dark doesn't have. Well, she might now. I don't know. Bunny Dams did a huge supplement, and I got to admit, I dug into that a little bit. I did not back it. I came in late to that. But I have perused some of the classes, and I don't think she has a tiefling in there. But
oh no, does she?
There's a lot of them. I literally have gone through a bunch of them. I know she has a gnome in there. I know she has a ranger class. She has a whole bunch of different classes, and there's some really cool ones. I really like her and Xander, what they did with that. I have not got my hands on a book yet, just because I've been wrapped up, obviously, in my own thing. But I just didn't. I kind of stayed with the original. I think there's plenty of depth here without getting, into demonic races and stuff like that. My next craze, I told you, my next two are Cyclops Men and Minotaur when they come in through, because I just think they're super cool. As the
I'm all about Minotaurs. Ask anybody who knows me. It's like, that's kind of my go-to. So yeah. I'd be excited to see that when that comes out.
Yeah, it's going to be the last page of the book. Bert doesn't even have this art yet. He's probably swearing at me like now. Oh, great, thanks. But Joey said, "Hey, can I do this?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, dude." Because I would love. I want to lead into that. And like I said, some of the names you're going to look at it and be like, okay, that is probably that. But maybe I don't talk about it this time, or probably I don't talk about it because that's all I would do is you look at 100-page of me telling you all the notes that I have. It's not.
Well, Grim, you've been kind of quiet. Do you have anything that you'd like to ask or know about? Or?
No, I said everything. I think. Yeah, no, there's nothing extra. Sorry.
It's all right. I mean, it's like, Matt's been telling us, pretty much everything. So it's kind of like, I don't really have any questions at this point. It's just, now I just want to see it. So,
as much as I told you, there's stuff that I didn't. So it's a lot of value packed in the book because I spent a lot of time on this as a first, I'm not a first time publisher anymore. I'm a second time publisher, but yeah, I'm still earning my stripes. I mean, I people were looking at me like, you can't do this, and probably it wasn't very smart to do two different IPs. But I said, this is that kid running with scissors. I'm going to just run around and fall down.
There you go. And you still got 11 days to go. So there's still plenty of time for people to hop onto this thing and for word of mouth to get out, circulate, and hopefully we'll get you, pushed across the line on the funding. But like I said beforehand, is like, even if, and I hope it doesn't happen, but even if it doesn't go through this time for you, I hope you will go ahead and try again, because I think this is a cool idea. I think it's got legs. I think for what all the circumstances and stuff like that, the timing was rough, but it's too cool of an idea not to get into people's hands eventually. So.
Yeah, and the nice thing about this is we're running some of the games at, I shouldn't say I'm, and probably John Watson too, but we're running some games at North Texas. So if you're going to be there, you'll check some of it out. Port Mirror, I know that I've got it set to run. Whether we'll be adding games as Gary gets the schedule up, I'll be running that. I'll be running Massacre Grounds. I'm running a Luchador WrestleMania, Luchador Mania thing. So please, Arizona Territorial Cup for that. I'm running my Gangbusters BX Gangster adventure, but you will see With Mail represented there, whether the book funds or not. It's not going away. I've got a lot of time invested in this. There's over 43 pieces of art that I've had commissioned. I've got a lot of time and money invested in this. You will see it, and I'm dedicated to doing it. Whether and so, like I said, sometimes I can't. You put your best foot forward, and sometimes you do really well, and other times you get clobbered. But when you make a mistake or you fail, you learn something from it. So,
Yeah, and definitely, and it's not necessarily about going down. It's getting back up after you do.
Oh yeah, no, and like I said, and you guys know who you are. That the people that have reached out to me privately that are very big names that have been like, okay, Matt, let me kind of school you on what's going on here. I deeply appreciate it, and there's too many of you to actually mention. But this industry, people don't realize how wonderful people are behind the scenes to each other. They really is. It's a family, and they'll go out of their way for you to help you out, and they're really they'll give you their opinions, and they'll give you their advice, and so I've been very fortunate with that for Massacre Grounds, and then for this, and guys, if you love my Western writing and you're like, I don't really care about with mail, the sequel to Massacre Grounds is ready to go. That'll be the next one, and I've got 2 fun ventures supplementing to that. So I didn't forget about my Western heritages. I'm out on my horse every day doing my research. I love that genre, and we'll be right back to that soon. I need to get me through this first, and we'll get there quicker.
Hey, man, there's a reason that lever action rifles are still popular, because they're fun.
Absolutely. I've got a collection of those.
I see. I knew you would be. I mean, and those things have come back in popularity, too, and the new ones really are cool.
Yeah. No, that is my passion, is lever action rifles. I've collected them for a long time. I've got a bunch of calibers, and yeah, it is definitely. I love the Old West. Obviously, we talked about this when obviously my first work was Western, but yeah, I loved used to cowboy action shoot. Love that sport, and loved mounted shooting. And yeah, there's nothing better than shucking rounds into a lever action gun, and yeah, I've got all calibers, and I love all flavors. They're from Marland, the old school Winchesters to Henrys to So
yeah,
the older and there was some rimfire stuff. Yeah, I love all that, and so it's that influence. But it's not. When I started playing, we had Boot Hill, which was more of a simulation than a RPG.
Oh yeah, I've played Boot Hill. I thoroughly enjoyed my games of Boot Hill, but yeah, when it gets down to the damage dice, we found out kind of on accident, if your character stands up in front of another character who has just emptied his double-barreled scattergun, there's not much left of the guy that falls down.
Nope. But yeah, when we started playing, Boot Hill was more of a simulation than an actual RPG, and so my first love has always been fantasy, swords and sorcery. But yeah, I love obviously David's work. I'm representing. I'm wearing my Frontiers to represent. I forgot to tell David, hey, love your brother. Because sometimes I get talking about everybody else, and I forget to mention the firemen. And firemen are, they need to have their props. So David, thank you so much. You are wonderful. He's always been a mentor, so I appreciate him. And so now I've given you your little props on one of these shows.
All right. Well, we've got our time for today, but I'm like I said, I really think this is a cool project. I want to see it fund, and if it doesn't, I hope you'll go ahead and do it again, and just try for a better time. And I wish you all the luck on this one, because like I said, I support the independent guys because you guys have more passion, more heart. You're not driven by corporate greed. You're not pushing corporate agendas or anyone's agendas. You're just there to have a good time. You're there to make something that's fun and enjoyable for folks. And I think that's the most important thing for games and for gaming, because people play games to escape from reality and from politics and from all those other things. They're not there to get immersed in it unless it's the politics of the game. Well, should we really have a vampire as a king? Maybe that's a bad idea.
It's only a bad idea if it's a bad story.
There you go.
Great. It's it depends on how you paint it. That's the whole thing. It's we're all little kids playing a game, and hopefully you get escape for your real life and whatever's going on, and enjoy yourself. And that's the whole thing. And hopefully, no matter what you play, if you don't enjoy my stuff, to play with somebody and like sit around a table and play, and all the other stuff goes away. Like just play with your friends.
There you go. All right, everybody out there in YouTube land, I appreciate y'all for hanging out with us today and saying hello to Matt, and I hope you guys will back his project. Join Grim tomorrow for what are you reading? Vaesen. Oh, that's the Swedish horror game thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Sort of folklore, Call of Cthulhu, kind of. Okay, should be fun. And, of course, join us on Tuesday for Tuesday with Geeks at 7 o'clock with me and Ironcaster and whoever else I can get to show up. But thank y'all for being here today, and you have a great week in Geek.
Thanks, everybody.
On behalf of the staff of the Independent California Motel, I wish you all sweet dreams.